We're talking Bigfoot encounters in Southern California with a Canadian.
Hell yes.
And I'm excited because Tessa, the sexy ghost from Canada, is here and was extremely hyped to talk Bigfoot with me. Tessa, what do you enjoy about Bigfoot?
I think that there's something really fascinating just about the idea of, there existing this creature, this animal that, I think this is similar with other cryptids, but just this thing that, what is it, a ghost? Is it an alien? Is it like an interdimensional traveler? Like, what is this thing that people are encountering? And I don't know, what does it say about us that we are like so driven to understand these things? I don't know. He's like a big guy. Just a big friendly guy.
Peaceful guy, right?
Exactly.
Wants to be left alone, which
seems so chill.
Well, I just love animals that haven't been discovered yet and didn't get discovered. And so I was kind of down the rabbit hole of just in the, 2000s, there's been 36 species of primates that have been discovered.
Fucking hell.
There's like a lot of mouse lemurs and there's a lot of, but there's some macaws that have, which are pretty substantial sized primates. There's even been elephants discovered in the 2000s. So there are mammals being discovered all the time. We haven't combed every square inch of the planet and found everything that is to be found. So I'm really excited about that.
I think there's something really fascinating about the fact that, I think we tend to think of ourselves as having a lot of power and having a lot of knowledge. And I like it when the world, when the universe, when nature reminds us that we don't know shit and we're not that powerful.
Right? But one thing that is really irritating to me, because I've gone down the Bigfoot research rabbit hole, is men.
Yes, always.
Men who dominate the Bigfoot space.
Yeah.
I think men need to take a sabbatical on all Bigfoot discussions and or Bigfoot research for the next decade.
Perhaps they could just take a sabbatical, period.
Just go home and don't talk to us.
Yes. Yeah.
Please.
Silent meditation.
Perfect. But God, these Bigfoot men with their gear, and that's the thing. It's they use it as an opportunity to get gear. And this is their way of compensating for their lack of ability to have meaningful relationship with other people, is they will bond over the gear that they get for their Bigfoot hunting expeditions.
I feel like Bigfoot is not a gear guy. Bigfoot he's not into it. He's not feeling it.
And he can tell when you're coming into his house with a bunch of gear.
Yes.
He or she or they are like, you know what? I'm not even going to deal with these hooligans over here.
Thank you. Exactly.
Whereas I do think if you're kind of a Zen person and you're just spending the summer in the redwoods, you're cool and you're mellow and you're chill. It's kind of like when I go to Griffith Park, the coyotes kind of hang out with me because I'm kind of cool.
I think, this is the thing. Like animals, creatures, what have you, they sense vibes.
Yeah.
Like so intensely and respond to them so strongly. I feel like having that sort of more peaceful approach and having that more peaceful sort of like internal state makes it a lot easier for them to kind of like come out and say, hey.
Yeah. We need a Jane Goodall approach to Bigfoot. Really.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
So let's start this thing off by watching the Patterson-Gimlin film From Bluff Creek in Northern California, which is the most famous Bigfoot film.
Yeah.
And see, I'm just curious to see what your thoughts are on this thing. Okay. So what do you think? Real or man in suit?
I don't know. I mean, like, it's kind of giving man in suit a little bit. Like, just because the hair to me, like, looks a little synthetic. Like, it's giving sort of like, it's not the most high quality wig for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, don't know.
Well, this is the thing, too, because it's like, what the fuck do I know?
Yeah.
Who am I?
On one hand, the legs are super long, which makes me feel like a man. in a
Yeah.
suit.
Yeah. The way it moves too is just so much like a guy at the grocery store. Like
the big butt on it though. I mean, that's kind of ape-like. And when it turns, it has like boobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
but like
many people
that,
said boobs are on their Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah. Big naturals, Bigfoot.
Yeah. And okay, when it turns, it's got like really thick muscles on its neck and upper body.
Yeah.
Now, which, I mean, that's kind of hard to replicate.
Yeah. But could it be just like a jacked dude in the suit?
Could be.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tessa doesn't know.
I feel like it's one of those things that I look at it and I feel like I am so not an expert I'm not an expert in primate physiology. I'm not an expert in bear physiology. I'm not an expert in any kind of physiology. I don't know shit. I'm just like, like if somebody said to me, here are the reasons why this couldn't be a guy in a suit, and we're like, yes, sounds good, makes sense. And then if somebody else gives me all the reasons why this clearly is, or it is, if somebody seems confident, I'm probably going to believe them.
And I keep on thinking, like, if I have never seen an elephant before and someone showed me an elephant, I would say that is some sort of mechanical apparatus wrapped in leather that someone has made. That cannot possibly be a real creature.
Yeah. Yeah. So, or like thinking as well about like, the medieval attempts to illustrate animals that haven't been seen before, where like you look at it and you're like, is that a kangaroo, bat? Like, what is going on?
Kangaroo's a perfect example. If I have never seen a kangaroo before and someone showed me a video of a kangaroo, I would be like, that's a man in a suit.
Yeah, just like, fuck off. You can't fool me.
So who knows if Bigfoot really does look like that?
Yeah. No, maybe he's just got weird fucking fur.
Before we get into our specific we have specific Bigfoot in Southern California stories that are very engaging and very interesting. But before we get into that, Tessa, has anything spooky happened to you recently?
Oh, man. I mean, I have a lot of weird dreams.
That's awesome. Tell us your weirdest dream.
Oh, man. Okay. Wait. So, okay, I'm trying to find a weird dream that isn't too disturbing.
No, give me your most disturbing dream. I want to hear it.
When I say that I have disturbing dreams, I mean that I sometimes have like deeply sad dreams.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, like my earliest memory of a dream that feels like it's in a different space is the dream that I had a number of times when I was a kid. It's a dream where I dreamt that I woke up in my bed and there was an old woman leading my brother through my room. We had adjoining rooms, him and me, and she was leading him through my room and I could tell that he was in some kind of trance. I got up and pretended that I was too, and I followed them downstairs. And my parents were sitting in the living room and just staring and not doing anything and not moving. And this woman led my brother through the living room and into their room. And I just stood in the living room and I didn't move and I didn't know what to do. And my parents didn't move and they didn't react. And after a few minutes, a little girl came out of the room and my brother was gone. And I dreamt that I don't know how many times from the time I was 8 until I was maybe like 10, which is around when my brother was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really rough.
Yeah.
But that's also really the girl that's coming back. Do you think that's like who your brother?
I don't know because I don't know because it just I got such a sense of malevolence from this woman. And I got the same sense from this little girl. And the thing is, I've dreamt about that woman since. Whenever she has appeared in my dream, I'm just like, oh, hell no. Oh. And I will do like a cleansing ritual of my entire place because like the sense of her is so viscerally nasty.
I wonder if it's a person from a past life.
Yeah.
It was extremely toxic.
She shows up and she does fucked up shit, man. Like a couple of years ago, I had another dream about her where I was just in a car and I was sitting in the back of the car. I was waiting for somebody and I looked out the window and she was sitting under a tree and just staring at me with hatred in her eyes. And I sat there kind of frozen. And after a moment, a man just kind of like ran into like the street and jumped into the car with me. And I woke up and it was just like, what the fuck was that? But same woman, just like, yeah, no. And she just shows up, and it's usually when shit's about to get weird in my life. So this was probably around when I started having this issue with this fibroid in my uterus that is causing me to just like bleed out, basically.
Yeah.
And this dream is like around when that started.
Like she's like a physical manifestation of your uterus.
I don't know. She's an asshole, man. She sucks. Yeah.
There's so many directions that you could go with this. Is it a past life person? Is it just like people in the spirit world?
Is she a manifestation of something demonic else? Is she? Yeah, no, exactly. Is she a demonic manifestation? Is she a ghost? Is she a manifestation of something else entirely that my brain is sort of like reading and translating into something? But yeah, no, I really don't like it when she shows up, and she shows up not that infrequently.
Are you into crystals at all?
I tend to rely on candles a lot. Cool. I do keep sort of like some crystals sort of like around in my place.
Because I was dealing with like negative real life humans, and I got some banishing oil and I put it on myself, and then I kind of like sprayed it all over, and I carried the little vial of banishing oil with me. And then I also got a obsidian arrowhead that I wore on a necklace. That like I felt like kept the negative people away. And then when I like no longer needed the obsidian necklace, it just like fell off me randomly. And I'm like, oh, I guess I don't need it anymore.
I'll try it. I'll try just about anything. I'm like, girl, leave me alone. What the fuck?
Yeah. That's a crazy, thank you so much for sharing this story. That's crazy. I feel like we're about to do like a huge vibe shift right now. And I'm like,
sorry, I know. I was like, this is too heavy. But like most of my spooky experiences, unfortunately, tend to be a bit heavy.
Okay, and the segue is happening now. Emotional vibe shift. Bigfoot creatures have been encountered in Southern California since the 1700s. The Spanish missionaries are said to have written about them. And I'll start with covering the Bigfoot-like creatures that people have encountered around the Edwards Air Force Base, which is about like 50 miles that way from where I live, maybe more, maybe like 75 miles. It's like north of a town called Lancaster, which is out in the middle of the desert. But the whole freaking area out there is desolate desert. And this was the subject of episode 22 of this podcast, where we talked about Pancho Barnes, because her grandfather was the father of the Air Force. She built a little bar next to the base that would become Edwards Air Force Base and would ultimately destroy her, as the U.S. military does to everybody. So Edwards Air Force Base, by the way, is larger than the whole city of Los Angeles.
Jesus Christ. LA's a big fucking city.
I know, right?
Shit.
It's a government testing facility, and underneath the whole Air Force Base, there's like these tunnels. There's a rumor that the Roswell UFO is kept there. This is where the B-2 stealth bomber was developed. Before it was publicly announced in 1989, people would see the B-2 bomber and be like, that's a UFO. No, it was one of ours.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like often I find myself going like, okay, is it paranormal, or is it just the U.S. government doing war crimes again?
Chances are it's war crime.
Yeah.
Sightings of Bigfoot creatures have been noted all the way out in 29 Palms, which is like 150 miles away, and Fontana, which is about 80 miles away. There's also been sightings in the Anza Borrego Desert. There's like 500 miles of craziness just in this vast, desolate desert where very few people are. And this area has been called the Borrego Triangle due to all the incidents of high strangeness out there.
Yeah.
According to a Longreads article that I put in the show notes, check it out, the indigenous populations that lived there before European colonization considered these Bigfoot creatures to be supernatural entities. There's references to Taquis or Taquiz, which is a spirit that makes its home in Mount San Jacinto, which is next to Hemet, which is also kind of out that direction. This creature was supposed to be the creator of all things. He had much power. And in the beginning, he used his power for the good of the people. And he was a guardian spirit of shamans. But over time, Taquitz became selfish for reasons we don't know. People became angry. They banished him to the canyon that now bears his name. And he made his home high in the San Jacinto Mountains in a secret cave below the towering rock that is today known as Taquitz Peak. And it still has that name. And it's said that his spirit still lives in the canyon, and he can sometimes be seen as a large green fireball streaking across the sky.
I find the concept of Bigfoot as a spirit like more compelling personally. There is something interesting about the idea of Bigfoot as like this creature that, if it isn't completely non-corporeal, it's sort of like in between corporeal.
And like if you were to try to photograph it, it would be like a blur.
Yes, exactly. Because it's neither a physical thing nor a non-physical thing in a sense. It's sort of like occupying this other metaphysical space that we just occasionally get these glimpses of, and that you occasionally find yourself sort of like adjacent to it for some reason, and then you can have these visions and these experiences.
Yeah. Very cool. I like that. Let's go back 155 miles north to Edwards Air Force Base. That sounds far away, but it makes sense that these animals would have a range that extends through the whole deserty mountain area, because it is kind of a liminal space, the desert. It is a space between communities and civilizations. And
I feel like it's the kind of space where you get that sense of like second space, a kind of metaphysical space, a kind of liminal space where it feels like the boundaries between our world and other worlds are more porous.
Yeah. And also because it is so quiet and desolate out there, I feel like you can hear things and feel things on like a spiritual level that is a little bit harder in the city.
Yes.
Or even just like a busy park.
Yeah, there's less to distract you from going to places that your mind doesn't usually let you go.
Yeah, very good point. And much of Edwards Air Force Base, which is near Lancaster, is underground. So there's a lot of surveillance cameras, and there's plenty of rumors that these cameras are capturing footage of Sasquatches running around in the tunnels that are underground. And of course, this footage is never made public because it's top secret government stuff. And the creatures go by various names up there. Yucca Man, Blue Eyes, because there are repeated stories that the creature has blue eyes, and the Night Stalker of Edwards Air Force Base. And from a website called gotoborregosprings.com, they have a nice timeline of all these Sasquatch encounters. In the 1800s, as settlers moved into California, there were reports of hairy beasts and upright walking apes. And in April of 1876, Prospector, very
very different vibes. I'm getting very different mental images from those two pictures.
Prospector Turner
much
Helm.
Less tweed in that one.
Prospector Turner Helm encounters a Borrego Sandman near Dead Man's Hole. And you can actually read this in like the newspapers of the time. And in the 1880s, Charles Cox and Edward Dean embark on a hunt for the Sandman, believed to be responsible for local murders. And in 1839, a prospector is reportedly attacked by a group of ape-like creatures near the Borrego Sink. In 1964, Major Victor Stoiano, I hope I pronounced that right, discovers large humanoid tracks in the desert. And in the late 1960s and 70s, there's increased sightings of Bigfoot-like creatures in Southern California, including the Borrego Sandman and the Fontana Speedway Monster, which we will talk about. And in the 21st century, actually, the time where there's been the most sightings of Bigfoot have been in the early 2000s, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. But in this particular area, sightings decrease. And I'm going to tell you about a guy named Douglas E. Trapp. He's a Bigfoot researcher and a friend of birds. In the 70s, he actually has a red-tailed hawk named Nixon.
Oh my God. That bird is not a crook.
I was researching him. He's also been president of the Midwest Raptor Rehabilitation Society, which when it writes its letters to various organizations, it ends its letters with, "We care about birds of prey," in all caps like that.
Oh, that's so cute. Me too.
I mean, me too. I'm not going to put it in all caps, but I too care about birds of prey.
I respect the passion.
A 1986 letter I found indicated that he intends to hold annual raptor migration watches in the Nebraska sandhills. So this guy goes all over. And I appreciate that. As far as I can tell, based on internet searching, he's still around and has a ham radio license, which was granted in 2002. So this paints a picture. Guy, he's into birds of prey. He's into ham radio. He likes to travel a lot. And the information from the story comes from BigfootEncounters.com. So it's the middle of spring 1977. By the way, the top movie of the year is Star Wars, which would come out in May 25th. And the third is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Doug and his friend Corey Rudolph are camping out in Palmdale. And that's what they like to do with each other. Doug and Corey, and sometimes his hawk Nixon, they camp in the woods.
Why Nixon? Why Nixon now?
Here's the thing, like if someone had a hawk now and they named it Trump, that would tell you something about that.
Exactly. I'm like, I need to know this man's logic behind naming his hawk after Tricky Dick.
There does seem to be a conservative leaning to a lot of these Bigfoot folks.
Once again, the men just need to stop.
Period. So this is their guy time. They hang out in the woods. They interview people. They investigate Bigfoot. And there's been several credible Bigfoot reports in the area. They're excited to get to spend the night observing, and also they're just eager to get away from the LA rat race. Folks they talk to tell very similar tales of large, hair-covered, man-like apes observed crossing the highway or looking in their windows at their homes, usually after midnight. That's frightening.
Yeah.
If it's an ape, though, I'd be like, oh, God, thank God. If it's a human, startled. But if I look out and I see an ape, I'm like, thank God. Thank God.
I feel like either way, I would be a little unnerved because I'm just like, listen, primates are just kind of dicks. Is the problem with primates?
Homo sapiens, though, are the top dick.
Yes,
definitely would
sadly.
prefer not to encounter a Homo sapien. Oh, and that's the thing about a lot of these Bigfoot documentaries I've been watching that are all by men. They're always like, we are going out into the wilderness. We do not recommend that you do this because the wilderness is dangerous and full of wild animals. I guarantee you the wild animals in the wilderness are far, far less dangerous than the Homo sapiens that I pass every day on my way to work.
Yeah.
So through these witnesses, Doug and Corey start to learn about Edwards Air Force Base in North Lancaster. They, this is pre-internet. They don't know about things. They're like, oh, there's an Air Force Base out there. And where the personnel there have been witnessing these so-called desert man beasts for several years. They make contact with 3 different military security officers who knew about the animals. The men are willing to discuss all of this with Doug and Corey only because they promise never to reveal their names. If they ever did reveal their names, the men would deny everything. The first man Doug talks to is a lieutenant in charge of the security in the Air Force Base sector near Rogers Dry Lake Bed. And it's just like a flat area. It's so flat that like when the sun is shining, I've kind of been there. It looks like a mirror, basically. And he's responsible for supervising the surveillance activity from sunset to sundown. And he did this from 1972 to 1975. So I'm imagining he's looking at video monitors and it's all very, very boring.
I need one of these guys to drop the tapes because it's like, yes, you would get in trouble with the military, but you would be a legend forever.
Drop the tape.
Drop the tapes.
Drop the
tapes. Come on.
Also, okay, these guys in the 70s, they were probably like 20 in the 70s?
Yes.
So they're probably almost dead soon. They're basically like in their 60s or 70s. They're probably dying.
No, exactly. What are they going to do with you? What are they going to do to you? Nothing. And what could they do to you? Because like you would be instantly so famous and like so visible.
But you know what?
The tapes.
You know what also sucks is freaking AI. Every time you see Bigfoot footage now, you're like, oh, that's AI.
AI just makes everything trash. Everything. Just an invention that makes everything fundamentally worse. Why do we keep doing that? I would like us, again, men need to stop.
So the base security is responsible for keeping an eye out for unauthorized entry. There was a highly classified secret aircraft testing there, and people had been trying to take photos and see things. And so he had to be like, no, you cannot come into this area. The base also, according to the lieutenant, had a high level of UFO, or as he put it, alien spacecraft activity. He makes it clear these craft were not from Earth, and the Air Force knew very little about them. When any unauthorized people or craft enter the area, this lieutenant has to report it to higher command. By the way, have you ever seen a UFO?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
I've seen strange things, and a lot of them tend to be like in vast open areas where there's not a lot of trees and you can see like the sky for miles and miles. So I tend to believe that like if you're an Air Force base out in the vast desert and there's a lot of sky unobscured, maybe you're going to see some things.
Yeah.
Like, what's that? That's strange.
That makes sense. Now, I feel like I've seen a lot of meteor showers. I've seen a lot of northern lights. Again, it's sort of like, it's one of those things where it's like, what the fuck do I know? Because I'm like, if I'm flying an alien craft and I'm trying to be like stealthy about it, I'm going to just like be like, oh, hey, a meteor shower. I'm just going to pop out and whoop, 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 and I'm going to fit in with all the meteors. And so how the hell would I know if I had seen one?
Yeah. To fit in with the airplane.
Yeah.
Like, who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
So this means that he has top security clearance, this guy, and he's supposed to discuss nothing of what he sees. So Doug goes on to say, this man further described some of these craft, but Doug was not interested. Doug is only a Bigfoot guy. How very, very single-minded. And I'm like, well, you're here talking to a guy who has seen some UFOs, so maybe ask some additional follow-up questions.
And moreover, like, okay, you're researching Bigfoot. How do you know these things aren't connected? Like, how do you know that like these like the big feet are not in fact like some sort of alien? Like we've talked about the possibility of, you know, them being kind of like spirits or interdimensional beings. How do we know they're not sort of like flying in and popping around? How do we know they're not like an alien base that was set up here like hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago and still observing? How do we know? So like, come on,
ask follow-up questions.
Get the details.
Make the connections. This is why
Explore
a lot of
possibilities
are not good at science research or like true crime detective work, because they don't make the connections between different things that could possibly be related.
Yes. Yeah. If you're not willing to like explore all of the weird shit that's happening, then how are you going to sort of like figure out like the one particular bit of weird shit that you're focused on?
Exactly. So while doing surveillance one night using starlight scopes, which sound really cool, but it's actually just night vision. The phrase starlight scope makes me think of some magical little device, like a little gold spyglass, and it's like powered by starlight.
Yes.
But it's not that.
I wish.
It's night vision.
They need to rebrand night vision.
Yeah. So he's got the night vision. He's got the motion detectors spread throughout the base. And one of the guards reports an infiltration. The guard describes a very tall man, but not really a man. This lieutenant drives out there to talk to the guard. The guard repeats his story. The lieutenant scans the desert through his starlight scope, and he sees about 500 yards away. The scope is very powerful, by the way. It's on a tripod. He sees a tall, hair-covered, ape-like man walking through the desert. And the animal is looking at the desert floor as if it's searching for something on the desert floor. And the creature wanders around around almost aimlessly. And when he reports what he sees to his supervisors, they tell him to keep the animal in sight. About 5 minutes later, a helicopter approaches. The animal continues doing its thing. And as the helicopter comes over a rock pile, the animal spooks and runs like a deer. Why are you bringing a helicopter?
Listen, I'm going to spook and run like a deer if you bring a chopper over me. Of course it's going to fucking run.
So he runs around, the creature runs around the rock pile and out of sight. And the helicopter searches the area, but doesn't find anything. They all can hardly believe what they saw. The next day, when the lieutenant reports to the command post, the command tells him that these animals have been seen on the base before, that the public knew them as Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but they may be related to alien craft. And here's the lieutenant is actually telling Doug about the potential relationship between Bigfoot and the alien craft. Doug is like, just tell me about the Bigfoot. I don't want to know about the alien craft.
Oh my God.
Follow up.
Get it together. Seriously. Fuck.
So the lieutenant says that all reports must be kept secret. He's told to continue to observe and report, but not to intervene or not disturb the animals, like calling a helicopter in, which sounds like something the higher ups did.
Some jackass smoking a cigar at his desk, got a chopper on it.
In the following years, he and his crew observe the Sasquatches on the base several times. By 1975, they mount sophisticated equipment, including video surveillance, and he's videoed the animals several times. Drop the tapes. But of course, those tapes get classified. When he leaves Edwards Air Force Base, he doesn't have much more info about the animals, but he believes they aren't UFO related, but biological beings. The second officer Doug interviews is a major, and Doug talks to him right before he retires in 1978. From 1970 to 1978, this major was in charge of one of the command posts. According to him, they were primarily interested in UFOs and aliens, and this major uses the term EBE, and Tessa, as an X-Files fan, EBE stands for...
Oh no, I don't remember.
Extraterrestrial biological entity.
Oh yes, okay.
Which actually he's using the term back in the 70s, and that didn't make it into modern lexicon until the 1990s and the X-Files. So
it's been a few years since my last rewatch, and I don't have a functional human brain, so there's nothing in there.
But yeah, this is the first time Doug has ever heard the term EBE before. According to the major, these Bigfoots would find their ways into the secret underground tunnels that run under Edwards. The existence of these tunnels is classified, and they taped the Sasquatches as they wandered through them. They weren't concerned with these animals because they learned they weren't related to EBE activity.
How did they learn that? How? What was... I need more details. Because I need to know, okay, so you determined that they weren't connected to this activity. All of these things are happening at the same time. Come on, fucking details. Drop the tapes.
Yeah. So according to the Air Force, these are simply undiscovered animals. Doug asks why no one captured them and proved their existence to the world. And the major says that they aren't allowed to reveal anything that happens on the base. Also, they have enough issues with people coming onto the base looking for UFOs. They didn't want people coming onto the base looking for Sasquatches.
Then why are you talking about it?
Well, he's kind of like, I'm retired. I'm just going to say stuff, but I'm going to deny everything if you use my name.
Yes.
The third interviewee is a 19-year-old security grunt. He said he has seen the Sasquatches through the starlight scopes. He's seen Sasquatches that stood over 10 feet tall and obvious females. I'm guessing because of the boobies.
It's the big naturals. It's the Bigfoot's big naturals.
And one of them with young offspring. He once saw a group of 5 walking together, all over 6 to 8 feet tall, and they're completely fur covered except for their faces, palms, and feet. According to him, the face resembles an ape with small eyes, a flat nose, and ape-like lips. The arms are long and slung down to their knees, and the feet have no arch. And the thing about the feet having no arch, you see that in a lot of Bigfoot prints. To me, though, a lot of the prints that people are pointing to and saying that's a Bigfoot print, to me, it looks like a bear foot.
Yeah.
Because the bear footprint has the flat foot and it has toes. And if the little claws get kind of like scrubbed off or something, it looks like a giant human foot.
Yeah, and I mean, similar to like you would put in the chat, there was an image of that bear with mange, and so I'm like, there may be some incidents where it's like we are identifying the wrong thing in this case. Yeah,
it looks like a Bigfoot, but it is in fact a bear with mange, and it looks like a Bigfoot print, but it's a bear print. So. Yeah. According to this guy, though, only officers are allowed to videotape the creatures or the UFOs. And he said that he felt very privileged to have seen the animals with such clarity because he knew there were a lot of people that would do anything to see one. He suggested that these animals were not as rare as people assumed, but they are very shy and almost strictly nocturnal, which makes sense in the desert. It's hot. They could be photographed given the right opportunity, but those opportunities were rare because these creatures are very good at remaining concealed even in the desert. And there are theories that they live underground in the desert. The reason they were on the base is that they knew they would not be harmed. And he thought that somehow they could feel danger or even pick up on human thoughts. Since the officers and grunts on Edwards were ordered to not harm or intervene with the creatures, they could feel this vibe and felt protected. Some of these animals, of course, wander around outside the base, but these animals are always watching their backs.
Which again goes to like, I feel like when we were talking earlier about like these fucking bros going out with like all of their equipment and this like really intense vibe, it's like, yeah, no, you're not going to see shit, man. You're not going to see shit. The vibes are off. The Bigfoots are getting your vibes and they're not here for it. No.
According to Doug's 1997 writing, several sources have told him in recent years that the desert Sasquatches are still being watched at Edwards Air Force Base. In fact, one officer recently told him the base security actually appreciates the presence of the Sasquatch since they give the officers some needed entertainment, which also makes me think it could be like a psyop?
Yeah, which again, I am calling on some sexy motherfucker to drop the tapes. Listen, you will be such a legend. You'll be forever like in the annals of Bigfoot legendary. You will be like the guy. Like just drop the tapes. Drop the tapes. I'll tell you you're hot if you drop the tapes.
Here's what I'm also thinking. Drop some DNA. Drop some Sasquatch DNA. Because, AI, video evidence is not good enough anymore because AI, I'm like, okay, made that with AI. But some fur, some feces.
Some physical evidence.
Something that we can take to a DNA lab and DNA test and get the DNA. And
which again, the question of like, are these tangible creatures or are these sort of like,
there you go. Yeah.
Again, occupying some liminal space such that we can at times observe them, but perhaps not interact with them in these more sort of like tangible and confirmable ways.
But there, so back to the needed entertainment thing. So there is also the possibility that these Sasquatches are military guys in suits. One, just having some fun and fucking with the young recruits or whatever. But there's also like, okay, we're going to find out who on the base have loose lips because we're going to make this Sasquatch thing happen.
And see who talks.
Right? Or it could also be kind of like the drones and the UFO, like something, a sort of distraction so that you're not paying attention to the war crimes.
Yeah, like what else is happening while you're watching the big feet on the starlight scope.
Yeah.
We won't know until you drop the tapes.
/DNA.
Yes. Drop whatever you've got. Drop your tapes, drop your pants. I don't care.
And if you are an Edwards person who has seen anything, you can email us at hauntedhollywoodhour@gmail.com.
Yes,
and come on and talk to us.
Come on.
So Doug wonders, could the extraterrestrial biological entities be just as interested in the Sasquatches as they are in the other base activities? The officer he interviews agrees, perhaps. In subsequent years, Doug would talk with other ex-military officers stationed at Edwards. And according to Doug, they all say that these accounts are accurate and that as of this story being printed in 1997, not much has changed at the base since the 70s. And from a December 6, 1965 San Francisco Chronicle article, Calvin Rube, a Yurok Indian, stands by his home atop a lonely mountain overlooking the Klamath River. The Bigfoot was known to my people as the traveler or the patroller. It is his job to keep nature and men in harmony. So the idea that, you know, the Edwards Air Force Base is a big disharmony sort of place. And the idea that the Sasquatches are there to restore harmony. You might see them in places or circumstances where
things are out of balance.
Yeah. That's a sort of spiritual thing.
Yeah, which again sort of like moves them into that liminal space.
Yeah.
And that possibly less tangible space that, I don't know, that I find compelling.
And I have this other story about it's going to be a future episode about the Fontana Speedway Monster. And people are noticing the Fontana Speedway Monster while there are car races going on at the speedway in the desert. The idea there is this is this loud place. And then you see like at night, this Sasquatch there, like the spirit entity that's like, whoa, this energy of the speedway thing is the wrong vibe. But which is contradictory to our like idea that you see the Sasquatches when things are quiet, but you also see Sasquatches in places like Edwards Air Force Base that are a whole bad vibe. So I don't know. Contradictions exist in the world. I don't know. I don't have the answer.
There might be something, I don't know, there might be something to the idea that you might see them both in spaces where they're working, like Edwards Air Force Base, where they're like, the fuck are you up to here? Like, stop it. And you might be more likely to encounter them in spaces where there is balance and in spaces where they might feel comfortable enough to kind of emerge, or where you might find yourself sufficiently in balance with what's happening around you to perceive things that you might otherwise not perceive.
Yeah, all the things, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you see deer on the highway and you see deer in
the forest. Yes.
So the same. This has been fun.
Yes.
Any final thoughts on the Edwards Air Force Base Bigfoot?
I mean, like, there is something really fascinating about just the idea that they're kind of like hanging out around this military base, especially given the U.S. military's long history and current ongoing record in terms of abuses of both the indigenous population of the United States and the environment and, you know, international atrocities. And the idea that you might have these creatures that seek to create this kind of balance sort of drawn to this space and hoping to kind of restore some of that balance, or in some intangible sense resist that organization, is again just interesting and compelling. And it would be nice to imagine that there is a part of nature or a part of the physical or spiritual or whatever kind of world that is fighting back at the same time that the rest of us are trying to find ways to fight back.
Yeah, there's something comforting about that, but you cannot rely on Bigfoot to save us. Yeah. We humans have to do our parts.
Yeah, but it's nice to know that Bigfoot has our back. I think this is like one of the things that I find compelling about Bigfoot, because it's a very friendly idea to me, or it feels friendly. And I feel like in a context where like so much shit is fucked up, and where I feel like many of my own spooky experiences have been heavy and dark, it's nice to just have like this cozy guy who's out there just like, hanging out.
Yeah. Because so many of the Bigfoot researchers are men, though, you do hear so many stories of these men being like afraid of Bigfoot. And I think that's really interesting.
Yes.
The woman I talked to is like, Bigfoot's just a big friendly guy.
Yes.
A lot of the men are like, Bigfoot's terrifying. And I'm like, isn't that interesting?
That's fascinating. And again, I think it says so much about masculinity and about like the expectations that we put into the world, which again, and I think that we have this idea of sort of like going out and being peaceful.
Yeah.
And being sort of like the kind of person who something might reveal itself to, instead of this more aggressive and sort of like this. It's very like sort of classic kind of masculine, I will penetrate the veil. Sort of.
Yeah. I know the feminine sort of like, I will receive what the veil decides to.
I will allow the veil to part itself for me if it wants to.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to have another episode on the Fontana Speedway Monster.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Similarly detailed a number of encounters of a Bigfoot a couple 100 miles south of Edwards Air Force Base. Before we go, Tessa, I know you're anonymous on the internet. Anything that you're excited about or looking forward to, or
laparoscopic surgery to fix all of the bullshit that's happening inside of me?
Yay! I hope that goes well. Let me know if you see that crazy woman again. I will. Excited to find out what she's about. That's terrifying and amazing, and I'm fascinated.
Yes, I will let you know. I will let you know if she shows up. I will probably do a cleansing ritual tonight to try to keep her from showing up.
Yeah, we'll see if you can wear some obsidian and get some oil.
I do have some obsidian. I have a beautiful obsidian necklace.
Yay. And this is Haunted Hollywood Hour. And if you want to expand our growing community of sickos, share this podcast with your friends. Give us a rating and or review wherever you get your podcasts, so that helps other people find it. You can follow us on Instagram at Haunted Hollywood Hour, all one word. And if you want to be part of the show at any point, or if you have ideas for episodes, email us at hauntedhollywoodhour@gmail.com. Until next time.
Bye.